Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Debo Euchre. Today's lesson is going to be on next calls. And it's pretty well known, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do one on next calls. The problem is the channel's really not complete unless we at some point get to it, and it's pretty critical to like almost all strategy in Euchre to understand it. If you ever wanted to move past the most basic level of Euchre, you have to understand next. So I'm going to get into it because we have to. So before we get too far, I want to address one thing, and I really only want to mention it once, and then we'll set this aside, but I need everyone to understand the all four jack hand and how it kind of breaks all these rules. So if there's a hand that has all four jacks in it, you can get burned, but that hand only comes up about 1 in 2,000. So if you want to make your decisions based on 1 in 2,000 hands, you can, but I'm going to move forward as if this hand doesn't exist because it's just best strategy and our best odds to just ignore that unicorn type hand. So when I make statements about what's true and not true, we're going to set that hand aside because it kind of breaks the rules. So let's get into this first hand. And next is mostly an indication of where the jacks are or are not, but mostly where they're not. All right. So when we look at this very first hand, ace of diamonds is up. It's a perfect example here. If the person to my left, who's in seat 2, had the jack of diamonds and the jack of hearts, they would order the ace of diamonds into their partner's hand. Even the most new player would do that. It's a pretty easy decision. So we know for a fact if the person to my left hits pass, they don't have that. We now have some factual information we can work with. They don't have that. It doesn't make any logical sense for them to have both red jacks. All right, so we'll move on. If my partner passes, what's that saying about his hand? Well, I say it doesn't say a ton. It's hard to order the ace of diamonds. There's plenty of situations where he has bowers and he wouldn't order. So his pass isn't really telling me a lot. Only if he were to order that is it telling me that he's completely loaded. But his pass doesn't say much. So we'll move on to Blaze and what his decision means. All right, now Blaze's decision is the most obvious. With an ace of diamonds showing, if he had the jack of hearts and the jack of diamonds, it's an automatic pickup. It's an automatic point. He's probably going alone. It tells me everything. This is a 100% fact. He doesn't have the jack of diamonds, jack of hearts. Okay, now we need to leave the realm of factual information receiving and get into a little bit more of the haze, but it's still strong indications that we're going to be receiving. And I'm going to focus mostly on my opponents here. Single bowers, the indication from my partner's pass isn't going to be saying all that much. So if the person to my left had just the jack of diamonds in their hand, what's the likelihood they would want to order the ace of diamonds? Well, I'd say pretty good. I mean, if you put one more diamond in his hand with that jack of diamonds, that's an order. He should be ordering that. The right with one, with a good player, ordering the ace of diamonds is going to get you a point a lot. So a good player should be ordering the jack of diamonds. So now we have an indication that the odds are that he doesn't have it. All right, now we can move on to Blaze. If Blaze had the jack of diamonds, ace of diamonds with the jack of diamonds on its own is a pickup. You don't really need anything else with a good player. And this is where, if you're playing against good players, next strategy is a little bit stronger than if you're playing with brand new players. If you're playing with a brand new player, they might pass a hand like jack of diamonds, ace of diamonds, even though that's really foolish. But with good players, and actually Blaze is a very good player, when he turns this down, I know for a fact that Blaze doesn't have the jack of diamonds because he's a good player, and I know factually he does not. It wouldn't make any sense unless he's got that all four jack crazy hand. But even then, to turn down a guaranteed point, I don't I don't even know if that all 4 jack hand would apply here. You'd probably just take your 1 point and move on. So we know Blaze doesn't have it. So we've got a really strong indication on where the jack of diamonds is from Blaze. All right, let's move on to the jack of hearts. Same hand. What's the likelihood that the player to my left will not want to order the ace of diamonds if he's holding the jack of hearts in his hand? Well, it's better than if he's not. All right, that's the second highest diamond, and you're putting the third highest diamond in your partner's hand. So there's some indication here. It's less likely that he has the jack of hearts, but it's not guaranteed. It's just a little bit of an indication. And I guess the fact that I have the 9 and 10 of diamonds here, really, it's not, I don't know if I'm going to fully count on where the jack of hearts is. I'm not going to be surprised if he has it, but it is a little bit less likely that he has it than that he does. But no guarantees. With Blaze, it's a little bit stronger because he's going to be you're offering Blaze 2 of the 3 highest cards that are out there. So I'm getting a pretty strong indication that Blaze does not have the jack of hearts. There's so many scenarios where ace of diamonds, jack of hearts, a couple off aces is all it takes. If he's got 1 more diamond, it's guaranteed he's going. So we're getting a pretty strong indication. I'd be shocked if Blaze has the jack of hearts, and that's a pretty strong indication. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. We've got all this information. We took it all in. The first bit of the lecture was all about how they're not going to have both jacks. So we know neither of them is going to have both, and that was almost a guarantee. That's like 99% sure. It wouldn't make any sense for either of them to have both. So when we lead, if we call hearts here and we lead the queen of hearts, we're not walking into getting destroyed. Neither of them is going to have the right and left and take all our trump and destroy us. It's just almost an impossibility. Worst case is they're split apart. So the player to our left and the dealer each had only 1 and nothing to go with it. Like maybe Blaze had just the jack of hearts and Quasar had just the jack of diamonds and they just couldn't do it. And that does happen sometimes. You'll walk into that. But even then, they're split. So if you lead trump, you might catch them both. You just don't know. But that's the worst case scenario. Now, the better scenarios are that our partner has it or that they're down. So when a suit goes down, the chance that that jack is actually just in the kitty is increased. So with ace of diamonds going down, there's really a better chance that the jack of diamonds is in my partner's hand or it's not in play at all. All right. So here we go with it. With the hearts getting played, Quasar goes 10 of hearts. Partner has the jack of diamonds. That's what I thought was most likely scenario. With all the information we had strong signals that the jack of diamonds was not with our opponents. All right, and now I've got my partner in the lead. He's firing off aces. We get to see whatever aces he's got, and that's pretty textbook. Here Quasar has the jack of hearts, and I'm not surprised. We mentioned that was our weakest signal, was the location of the jack of hearts. So no problem. He takes that. Our ace of hearts is now the highest heart. And our partner gets us another one. And this is kind of infuriating for opponents when I'm calling trump and then my partner's getting all the tricks. But that's the whole point of the next strategy and the indication. Yes, my partner took in all the tricks, but I did all the work. I assessed where I thought all these jacks were, and I gathered the information and I used it to make the call. So he gets the tricks, but I get the credit. So a lot of people think that next is just about making thin calls where you just have a couple trump like that ace queen hand I just showed, and you can make calls that you wouldn't normally because you're using the next strategy. And I think that's just way too simple. It's mostly just about where jacks are not. And so if we have an indication on where jacks are not, we can turn regular looking hands into loner hands. And so I've got a couple examples of that we're going to show off. Okay, so here we go. We're going to turn this regular diamonds call into a loner's diamond call. All right, so I'll stop it here. Mike's got the jack of diamonds, and that's not completely surprising. I think that's the weakest indication. So hearts goes down. Mike T having the jack of diamonds is the most likely scenario where next is going to fail us. So Mike's got it. And actually, this hand plays out as bad as it possibly can. But our strongest indication on where the jack of hearts is going to save us here. So Mike's going to grab another one. Because we didn't really have an indication on where the king of diamonds was or anything like that. But we do have an indication on where the jack of hearts is or isn't. And it's not in play. It's either in our partner's hand or down as expected. And so we're still not getting euchred, even though that hand went about as bad as it can go. And everyone thinks we're lucky at the table. But we had a pretty strong indication on where the jack of hearts was not. So I'm not surprised that it wasn't in either of their hands. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one's pretty cool. I like when the ace is the up card as far as calling next. It gives stronger information. So Brian K doesn't want this spade, and Euchre God, him saying he doesn't want a spade says a little more about the jack of clubs to me, because again, 2 of the 3 highest cards, there's plenty of combinations where it would make sense for him to go. So we're going to turn this normal looking clubs call into a loner clubs call. And take note that my king of spades is now the highest spade. Once that ace of spades goes down, don't ever forget it. So here we go, and let's let her play out. Okay, so the jack of clubs is not in play. And you could, without any indication, you could try this alone and just hope the jack of clubs isn't in play. But we have indication as well. We have both, which makes it a stronger candidate. And this one runs. That king of spades is good, and the king of diamonds runs. So there we go. We didn't just make a thin call. We turned a regular call into a loner call. So you can do both. And this is just as valuable. 4 points will win you a game. Okay, now this last one is the ultimate in calling next thin. And before we go any farther, this might not be the correct call. I don't pass out of weakness in round 2 from seat 1. I don't know if a computer would ever tell you to pass this. It's probably pretty close on diamonds or spades. I don't know. But I decided to go with spades here. I don't like the diamonds call as much because I've got to give away the ace of diamonds in some ways. It's a possible winner, and I have to give that away to call diamonds. And then I've got really nothing else. So I decided to roll the dice here and just call the spades. And that kind of goes hand in hand with my last video on not ordering from seat 3. If I'm in seat 3, I could easily have the jack of clubs and the jack of spades. And so I want to be a good partner. And that's kind of part of my strategy, is I just hope that my partner's kind of like me. And sometimes that's true, and a lot of times it's not, but that's still how I like to play. So here we go. While this last one runs, I just want to mention that next is a lot stronger against good players, but it's still useful against new players and weaker players. They're still more likely to pick a card up if they've got that jack. Like, it's at the most basic level, it still has some use. So don't ignore it if you're at the lower ranking or with some players that aren't as good. Don't ignore it. It's still there. It's just not going to give you as strong of an indication as you would if you were at an expert table. So hopefully this clears up and kind of clarifies what next means, and everybody can start taking use of it. It's really important.